We'll get going in a couple of minutes.
Hi, Josh. Nice to meet you. I'm Rob Guinness.
Hello, Rob. How are you today?
I'm doing well. How are you?
It's Tuesday. Feels like Monday.
I know the feeling.
Hello.
Hey, Dan. Hey, Max.
Morning, all.
All right, it's 5 after. Let's get cracking. Okay, so for everyone new here, this is technically the security tooling working group meeting, but we've hijacked it for SBOM everywhere. And so it's actually the SBOM everywhere meeting, unless someone has tooling topics, and then we could talk about those for a few minutes. But fundamentally, it's SBOM everywhere, which is why if you look at the agenda, which I'll paste again, it asks to sign in the tools document. So I will paste the second one, and this is where everyone's supposed to sign in. But the agenda is coming out of the SBOM Everywhere document, which is very confusing, and I apologize for the confusion. So the first item is to introduce yourself in the chat, just like a one line. That's what we do instead of doing like intros. I will paste my example. So if everyone could do that in the next couple, well, before the meeting's done, I guess, just as a nice way to say hi and let us know who you are. And then we'll get cracking on this agenda. The first up is Dan Luring to tell us about OpenVex. Take it away, Dan.
How's it going?
It's going, man. Dan and I used to work together, so I'll probably give him a hard time about something or other at some point.
I'm looking forward to that. Yeah, so we just wanted to quickly debut OpenVex. So this is a new specification that we're launching today, actually. And probably most of you have heard of Vex, the idea that you can comment on vulnerability findings and have a machine readable format for deciding a status for the match between a vulnerability and a package. And so what we've done is we've been participating in a lot of meetings with folks to learn more about how Vex is being used. And this is kind of coming off the back of the CISA working group to figure out what should Vex be going forward. What are the minimum requirements for the Vex concept, and for to try to bring some alignment and consensus around how Vex is going to be used in the industry. And so we're hoping that we can really leverage the agreements from that, those meetings and discussions to create something that folks really enjoy in terms of a Vex workflow. And so we've launched something called OpenVex, and what that is, it's a specification. So it's literally like, what should JSON look like? But it's also more than that. It's we feel that a really big factor in the success or failure of a spec like this is there tooling to go along with it? Can you get your hands on something? Can you begin to try it out? And so we also have, you can go to the, actually, let me just show you this. There's a OpenVex GitHub org now, and that's probably a better thing to speak to at this point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, by the way, I've already, we already have the URL and the short one-sentence description of it in our notes, so.
Oh, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, here goes nothing. Do you all see OpenVex GitHub?
Sure do.
Yep.
That's perfect. Okay, cool. So yeah, so you can go to github.com/openvex if you're not already there. And this kind of breaks down what we are talking about. So there is a specification that has its own repo. There's a Go library so far to parse and then write out and do some transformations on Vex documents using Go. Hopefully there'll be more languages supported soon. And there's also tools that are meant to kind of demonstrate what Vex can be used for. Things like creating documents, benefiting from prior Vex analyses to filter scan results. And those are sorts of things you can do. Right now we have one kind of flagship tool called VexCTL, but we're hoping to add more tools soon. And I think the other thing that's really important to us is that we're working with the community. So we have already buy-in from other companies that we're really excited about. So we have ChainGuard, Google, Anchor, VMware, hopefully more soon. But we've already talked with folks like the Gripe team about adding native support for OpenVex into Gripe, I think, which is a super compelling use case. And so I think one of the things that we're hoping happens soon is that as this community starts to grow, we're getting a lot of iterations on this concept, and we're seeing really early on if the ideas kind of encoded in the OpenVex spec are going to work for folks or not, and what adjustments we can make. But I think our big hope is that this really becomes something that adds a lot of value and I think addresses one of the problems we've seen, which is as we talk to folks about Vex, what we tend to hear is that they've heard about it and it sounds cool. They're not aware of a lot of adoption for it yet. And I think that's the big thing we're trying to change with OpenVex. This is the specification itself. If you're interested, let me just scroll down to one thing just to make it kind of a visual here. This is an example of an OpenVex document, just so you have a picture. And I think I'm going to hand it over to Puerco, who's on the call too, to make it a little bit more concrete. But that's the overall idea of OpenVex, a way to do Vex that's minimal and tries to get a lot of feedback loops with the community going to make it more successful.
Thanks, and let me share quickly the window. I hope the terminal is big enough. I don't know. I cannot see it. Your video screen, but it's small. Let me know.
Looks good to me.
All right. So as Dan mentioned, we have this tool already created to work with Vex documents. It's called VexCTL, and it allows you to do a couple of things. So the first one is it lets you create new documents, which more than created is more of a native to let you scaffold a new one, so that you can start moving quickly with it. So if we demo this document here and I run it, it's gonna produce this document for me using this product, which is the subject of the Vex statement, then a vulnerability, and then a status. So I just produced a document that says, okay, this package is fixed for this vulnerability, so it should not be affected. As a reminder, Vex is meant to be the companion of an SBOM. So if you want to know more about the software artifact itself, you can go and refer to the SBOM. Then the other thing it lets you do is it lets you merge documents. So the purpose of merging documents is because Vex is supposed to be generating documents constantly all of the time. So you get as new impact knowledge evolves about a vulnerability in a software product. So if I pass it to documents, what it'll do is that it will combine them into one document that captures all of that knowledge. So just going through one of them, it lets you see that it's a document issuing one single statement, and then when I run it through the tool, it combines them into two. And finally, well, not finally, but the other thing that it lets you do is creating attestations of the document. So if you do, once you have that document ready and you need to sign it and also attaching it to an image, VexCTL lets you attach, lets you attest the document. So I have this document already prepared talking about a bunch of container images. So if I just pass it through VexCTL, it'll create this internal attestation, it is smart enough to understand that I'm talking about images, and it transforms all of the references in PURLs or image references into internal attestations expressed in container image references. And then it embeds the OpenVex document in the predicate of the attestation. And this is already also integrated with Sigstore. So if I pass the sign argument like that, you cannot see it, but my browser just opened the standard Sigstore flow and I'm authenticated with my Google credentials. It produces a signed attestation, and it already has already also the attach flag like this. So if I pass it attach, it's gonna go and attach the attestation to all of the attested images. And finally, the one I'm not gonna demo because I don't have something to show for is I don't have documents to work with right now, is filter. And the filters of command, what it lets you do is the final piece of the Rex workflow. Once you have a scan report and a vulnerability list and in a Vex document, it lets you filter the scan report through VexCTL and switch off and remove any false positives found in the report. Currently, we have this working with Sarif. So if you have a tool that supports Sarif, it should be able to be piped through VexCTL. And we are working to support each of the major security scanners proprietary formats so that we can turn off the false positives using Vex documents. I know this was a super quick and maybe rushed presentation, but please check the repos and we have more examples over there.
Awesome. Thank you all so much. And I know we have Justin here from CISA, and CISA is kind of the driving force behind this. Justin, when does the Vex doc come out from CISA? Do you know off the top of your head by chance?
We are at the earliest, it'll be about 2 weeks from now. We're hoping, we had our weekly Vex meeting yesterday, an attempt to just work out some last minute edits, but the internal process at CISA, once we turn it over, because we will be posting on our website, it has to just go through a few different policy through our external affairs team and things like that, and then get 508 processed. That usually takes about a 14-day process. So hopefully
Awesome.
2-3 weeks at the most.
Awesome. And then Dan, you have a question?
Yeah, sorry if it's a dumb question. The spec, the OpenVex spec, I just noticed it's under CC0 license. I don't see any other information about its license or provenance or IP, regime under which it was developed, other than the note to say it was developed by ChainGuard and Google and some other folks. So what's the situation? Is this planned to be contributed into OpenSSF? Will it be reissued under the open specification license, or what's the deal with the spec, I suppose, is my question.
Yeah, we had the same comment from the Linux Foundation about the licensing of the spec, and we already started working with them. If you see in the governance document, we already have the documents of the proper license that we're going to be applying probably today, because this just merged yesterday. Awesome. And yeah, definitely we would like to pursue donation at some point.
So what license are you planning to put it under?
It's let me tell you, it's
The code is Apache 2. The specification will be the community specification thing that the
Ah,
OpenSSF requires. Yes.
All right.
Right.
Okay. Gotcha. Okay. Very good.
Community specification license, yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. All right, good deal. Well, thank you all. That was fun. Next up, we've got Sarah, who has, I think, a pretty generous sized topic today. So just to remind everyone, at the end of the last meeting, Sarah generously volunteered to start putting together kind of, I don't know, a proposal, I don't know what we'd call it, but a document kind of requesting from the OpenSSF members resources to help with SBOM Everywhere, where we talk about going out to projects and working with projects to create SBOMs. We need people to do that. And this is where the membership hopefully can put their money where their mouth is. So Sarah, I will let you take it from here. Thank you so much. I cannot hear you.
Uh-oh.
Now you're muted.
Sarah.
Test, test, test.
There we go.
Yay!
Perfect.
All right. So I thought about this idea of how we could send up a proposal to the TAC and to the governing board to help activate the companies who are interested in this work stream of the mobilization plan and want to financially or with resources support this initiative. And before I could get started on the proposal, while I was ideating how to put together that request, I saw what Krobe had done with the education special interest group. And he had put together a GitHub where he gave an overview of, and I can share this with you, but he gave the overview of what the education special interest group was doing. And he, talked about how it aligned with the mobilization plan, had links to the mobilization plan, and then he put together for a proposal of how they thought they would accomplish that. So let me pull that up and I'll share my screen. And what I wanted to do is get feedback from the group on if we feel like this is a good idea to frame our proposal up in a similar way. That way that when working groups are taking on something from the mobilization plan, it's coming up to the TAC and to the governing board in a consistent way. So I like that idea. And I'm just looking for feedback and thoughts from the group. And if we like the shell, then I'm going to start working on creating one for our team. So let me share my screen here. Just
Sarah,
one second.
can you also paste a link to this doc in the chat for everyone? I'll put it in the notes.
Yes, that's a great idea. Oh, okay. I think that's it.
The attack issue?
I think so.
That's the edu.sig mobilization plan review?
Yes. Let me. Okay, so this is how he approached it. He put together the education SIG has completed revisions of the mobilization plan stream. It's now ready for the TAC to review the plan. And so he organized it by first, and I'll just open these in new tabs so we can kind of go through these. All right. So this first one just kind of, this is a lot like the document that Josh and team have been working on the last, couple weeks. What motivates us? What's our objective? What's our scope? So we could take all that work that Josh and team have been doing and actually put it in here. How to get involved, prior work, when do we meet, that sort of thing. They have a link to the mobilization plan. They also have a thread on how they are pursuing accomplishing the problem space around that plan. And then he goes into the proposed plan. So in this situation, they want to collect and curate content. They want to expand training. They want to reward and incentivize developers and maintainers. And then this proposal summary is something that I really like. And I don't know if I have it. I'm going to open it up and see. The proposal summary I thought was really impactful because it kind of goes into each one. Okay, for collecting curate content, you can go there for more information, but then here's how they put together time and resource estimates. Same thing for what's involved in expanding training, and then what's involved in incentivizing and rewarding developers and maintainers. So I know that we may approach solving the problem in a different way. And so our proposal may look different, but I think this is a really great template and a really great shell. And I'm open to, comments or, gotchas, but if, kind of barring any of those, I'm going to try and model the proposal off of this and then share a link and we can all kind of pick at it and try and improve it.
I love this. This is great. I shamefully hadn't read through everything Krob has done, but he is a master at putting together things like this. This is really nice.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree. And I do not want to reinvent the wheel. I just want to reuse what he's done and then just put in content that's specific to our work stream.
Yeah, I agree. I think the more we can ride the coattails of everything other groups are doing, the better.
Yeah. And as an observer to the governing board, I've attended the meetings and I've listened to how they're talking about operational, what's it, operationalizing things. They have the TAC attending. And so there's a lot of things being fleshed out operationally in the OpenSSF. And so one of the things I think organically that we can do as a community is, where possible, approach this challenge in a consistent way. That way it's bubbling up through the TAC and the governing board in a consistent way. And then, as we need to change or modify things, we can. But no need to be a special snowflake if without a good reason to be.
Now, out of curiosity, Sarah, do you know, how far has this gone? Because like I see there's requests for people and money in that document. Has any resources been allocated to any of this yet?
Not to my knowledge. So that actually came from a TAC digest. I saw the link posted for review. Hey, I want the TAC to review this. So I don't know if it has gone through the TAC review process. I think it would then probably need to go up through the governing board and there would need to be some sort of decision made. And then as the OpenSSF is looking to help, fund or provide oversight, product managers and all these things that they've been talking about doing, reporting to kind of help with that infrastructure for operations. I think that this is going to kind of force some of those, continue to have some of those conversations about how we do that. So my guess is no, nothing's actually dropped yet.
Dan, you have a question?
Yeah, I was just wondering if you could provide a tiny bit more context on, is this part of the overall goal of the work stream to get the word out to, education of developers? Are there other activities that the work stream is involved in that don't fall underneath the funding request umbrella, which are also part of that area? I was just wondering if you could put this in context for me. Sorry.
Yeah, no, that's okay. Let me just, I'll do this real quickly, and this may be good background. Share the screen. All right, so kind of going to the source, there's this document called the mobilization plan that went out, and it has each one of these work streams. And let's see if I can go to the education one. Okay. This is what Krob was trying to do. Deliver baseline secure software development education and certification to all. And so it just was a paragraph and a cost. And so then that's it. This was published back in May. And so how would then a working group take that paragraph and go execute on it based on the expertise and the community that's showing up to a working group that's aligned with education? And so we're kind of doing the same thing around, I think SBOM everywhere is stream 9. Yeah, 2 paragraphs, a cost, and TBD, amount per year beyond. So one of the things we've been talking about is, so how do we take this and put together a framework that we can use within the security tooling working group to execute on this this work stream in the plan? And then how can we get the word out so that if there's people at companies like Dell, for example, because that's one of my jobs, is to make sure that we are internally organizing ourselves in such a way that we can support the mobilization plan. Where can I send committed resources or funding to? And right now, those connections aren't really clear how we can really activate different companies and their resources within that are participating in the OpenSSF to really come and get some traction and have some movement on these different work streams. So the idea for the proposals then is to take this stream and kind of flesh it out a little bit more, similar to what you saw over in the GitHub, and say, all right, you know, kind of what's our scope, what's our mission, how do we want to accomplish this within the working group, and then what do we think that we'll need, and then bubble that up through the TAC, through the governing board, and then that word can get out to each of the companies who are participating, or even individual contributors who want to participate. Say, yeah, I want to participate as an individual or representing my company. I know exactly how to do that and where to go. I hope that helped.
And I think there's kind of two pieces to this that maybe isn't always obvious from the outside. Is to date, there has never been like a formal way for OpenSSF members to connect resources to projects. And there's just a bunch of structural things around that, I think. And then the other piece of it, I think, that we need to do is we need to actually have a list of stuff. Because there's nothing more depressing when you want to help and you show up and say, let me help. And they're like, oh, come to the meetings. It's like, that's not helping. Like, I want to do something. And so I think that's the second piece of this, and the thing I think while Sarah's kind of putting the meat on, or I guess the bones together initially, we'll start, the rest of us can start building like things we want to see done. Like, what are projects? And we cover this in the, let me find the goals and purpose document. Oh, for crying out loud. My Google Docs is just not happy with me today. But this, okay, it's got, is this right? Yeah, it's got, I don't know why I can't sync change. It doesn't matter. But we have in the approach, we talk about like some ideas of doing things like sending people to projects to do the work, not asking nicely, which never works. But there's a bunch of ideas. And so this is kind of the piece I think we can all work together on, is just some, what do we need to do? What are the projects we'd like to have them create SBOMs out of the gate? And then we obviously have to understand the challenges, document the challenges, and then obviously take those lessons and build the tooling and everything as far as we can. So I'm excited. Does anyone have any questions for Sarah? All right, good. This is so obvious, Sarah, now that you bring it up. It's one of those, like, we should have thought of this a long time ago things, but I love it. It's you know you're on the right track when whatever someone suggests is the obvious right solution. So, okay, my Google Docs is like broken. I give up. Anyway.
Are you trying to share the goal and purpose document?
I'm in it, and it thinks I'm offline.
Oh,
I'm
happy to share it or take any notes in it if you need.
No, I don't think so. That document actually is in pretty good shape, and we've been hemming and hawing over that for over a month now. And so I'm comfortable saying, unless someone has like egregious edits, that's good to go. And so I think you can take that content and incorporate it into what you're doing with a high degree of confidence. So I'm good with that. And that's linked to from the notes under current documents in flight, which I'm going to skip over that since the SBOM Everywhere Goals and Purpose, just everyone here read it. I think it's in good shape. Like we've gone back and forth. The landscape funding proposal needs eyes, but we'll do that next time probably. I need to go through it. I haven't looked at it in probably 2 weeks. But I think the thing I want to do now with the time we have and the people we have is the resources we want to work on. I think that would be an interesting conversation to just start getting some ideas. Like, for example, I put something in here called SBOM examples, and a little bit of background to that. There is an effort going on in SPDX right now, which is around quality of SBOM, and their focus is they want to make sure that the actual content in the SBOM is well structured and good, and they're looking at how to measure that and what defines that. But I think from this group's perspective, what I want to see, and no one has done this, and I talked to them and they're not interested in this in SPDX right now, but like, I want to see, I have an artifact, this is what I expect to get out of it, right? Rather than I expect a well-formed SPDX. I think that's for SPDX to deal with, but I would love to see golden examples. Then we can point scanners at that. We think if you look at the goals and purpose document, we talk about going out to like some open source projects and offering to help them create SBOMs, not saying here's some tools, but literally doing the work. And again, this is where we connect the people to the work. But I'm curious if anyone has thoughts or ideas on.
Josh, how different is this to what NTIA minimum spec is? Which is saying the minimum, you know, for a package, you need your supplier, you need the version, maybe the license.
You mean the SPDX stuff?
Well, there's the NTI checker, and it only works for SPDX, but okay, not difficult to run that against Cyclone DX as well. But there must be a minimum set of attributes of a package that you need, and then there are other things. Now, there's lots of issues, but actually just start with a very low hanging fruit and then get that and then move forward, because you can already see on SPDX the difference people are generating SBOMs, and they've all got different strengths and different weaknesses, and they're all compliant. So
that's right.
You know, I think to some extent we need to turn it around from the producers to actually the consumers. What are the consumers going to find useful? Rather than we as tools, we can just generate anything out of software build, but what does a consumer actually want to use an SBOM for?
Yes, and I think so. I think that's two different things. So Adolfo's here. Adolfo, can I pick on you because you were part of the SPDX quality discussion, right? How is that comparable? It's more than the NTIA minimum standards, if I understand it correctly, or am I mistaken?
Yeah, well, the NTIA minimum standard said like a base quality trying to address the most common uses of SBOM. But yeah, there are other factors in which are not covered by that, such as, for example, structure, and also ensuring that we are capturing parts of the software required to do operations on the SBOM. So I deal with container images a lot, and then we had this big discussion on whether the SBOM should capture inside of, like in its structure, not only the components, but also the layers and the images themselves, which a lot of tools are missing currently. And so, yeah, I think we are seeing this discussion about quality more and more. I was going to present about that in Cloud Native Security Con tomorrow, but I couldn't go. We have a lot of presentations about those things happening. If you pay attention to FOSDEM, there's going to be a couple of them, and I think I saw some in Cloud Native Security Con about from others presenting on the same subject as well.
And kind of the perspective we have in this group, Anthony, is we don't want to do the work. If SPDX is doing this, if Cyclone DX is working on something similar, which I suspect they are somewhere, I don't know about it, we don't want to get involved. Like, let them do their job, let them do their work, and then we can help spread messages and help. For example, let's say SPDX says, like, this is the new minimum expected standard. Then I'd like to see this group, for example, go to open source projects and say, you have to, here's how we can update your tooling to meet this. Stuff like that, versus trying to, I guess, control any work. If that's too harsh of a term, I suspect, but I hope you get it.
Yeah, but I still think we need to look at the consumers rather than the generators, because
yes, and that is
and that I think is, I totally agree with what you're saying, Josh, in terms of it's not the purpose of the group to actually create the tools, but actually it is to canvas the community of SBOM users, which is what SBOM everywhere should be looking at, is to actually, well, what do they need? And yes, you can use it for vulnerabilities, you can use it for license management, you can use it for other things. What do people want to use an SBOM for, rather than just creating one because we can? And
100%. And
I
so
don't know where, looking at the groups, most of us are the techie side. I don't know where we are. Have we got people from the end user community?
not really.
And that's also, I don't know whether we're missing something.
We definitely are 100%. Now, I will say, if you look at the goals and purpose document for SBOM Everywhere, that is described in several places where there's an obvious focus on creation and consumption. And I think capturing consumption is going to be slightly harder. One of the things we want to do as part of that is just create a landscape of like SBOM everything. Who are the consumers? What are the tools consuming it? What are the tools generating it? What are the formats? There's so much going on that we can't all keep track of. I mean, almost every meeting I learn about something new I didn't know about. And somewhere in the SBOM universe, like it's so big right now. And so you are correct, but I think given the talent we have at the moment in the OpenSSF, we can probably accomplish the most in terms of generation today. And so I think that's where we'll probably focus on. But if or you have people or anything to focus on consumption, like I would love it if we could do something there.
Yeah, I mean, I'm at FOSDEM on the weekend, so it'd be interesting to see what people say, because there's a workshop all about SBOMs.
Yeah.
And it will be interesting to see whether we get end users, let's say healthcare or energy sector, which will be really useful, to quite big sectors, which clearly would need SBOMs, to see what they would actually use them for. And the discussion about VEX as well would be interesting as well. Notwithstanding the difference in the US and Europe as well, because there's going to be different perspectives as well.
Can I do like a quick commercial, Josh, if it's okay?
Please.
So yeah, I'm part of the organizers of the FOSDEM SBOM room. So Anthony, if I'm happy to hear all of your concerns. We're gonna have an open discussion to hear about questions and answers. And yeah, so if anybody is interested in this subject, then once it's going to be around FOSDEM, please show up, check out the agenda. We got assigned a full day's worth of slots for our SBOM presentations. So please be there if you want.
I'm part of that panel. So yeah. So therefore, I will be pushing about consumers very heavily.
Awesome. Dan just asked in the chat, do you know, Adolfo, is there any remote anything for that?
There's a live stream normally. I'm not sure if it will go to our room. So normally there is a live stream on video.fosdem that is basically live broadcasted. It depends highly on the room where we're going to be in, whether the audio is good or bad. It really depends on the room and which person we get to technical support our audios. But it has become better. They actually improved their open source setup, and they have now 3 mics in most rooms. So, but there's no chat or anything. It's just a live video feed, so you can follow. We did do via Slack and all the stuff. That's how we did last year.
Nice. And that is next? No, it's a week after next, right?
No, it's this weekend.
It's this weekend.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, it's February tomorrow. Okay. Anyway, that's my week. Okay, so this weekend. Awesome. And I'm sure even if we can't catch the live stream, because it'll probably be at a terrible time for many of us, much will be written about everything happening, I'm sure.
The videos are up usually a week or 2 weeks afterwards.
Yeah. Perfect. I'm very excited now. Cool. And whenever that happens, I will figure it out from somebody, or anyone here who can just put a note in the agenda doc, and we can just let everyone know, because I'm sure there are many people hanging out in the Slack and on the mailing list that would love to watch the videos. Okay, so we're kind of running ourselves out of time, and so in the agenda, I guess let's work on actions maybe for what's next, instead of trying to take on anything new. So I'm going to just start a new section here. So Sarah is going to write a document similar to what I won't say write, I'll say start. Start a document similar to what the education SIG is doing. Do you want help with that, Sarah? Are you comfortable doing it?
Yeah, I'm always up for help. So we would just need to, if anyone's interested collaborating on that, we can divide and conquer pages, and it'll go twice as fast or 3 times as fast, but I'm going to do it either way.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Is anyone interested in helping Sarah?
Hey, Dan.
All right. All right. You're on the hook now.
Yeah, I mean, I'm already participating in the best practices working group, so it seems like there's a good synergy.
Fantastic.
Sorry.
What do you mean, sorry? This is great. Awesome. Good. Okay. So as part of that, then I guess let's consider the SBOM Everywhere goals and purpose at least a 0.01, right? We're done nitpicking it. Like if any content in that you're welcome to take. There is a note at some point. Yes, old content below this. Obviously don't use that. But everything above is fair game. Okay. So Sarah's going to do that. There's the landscape funding. It needs a review. That'll be me. I don't even know what state that's in. Kate and I worked on it a long time ago, and we need to get back on it. And then just for anyone who's new and hasn't heard, there is a thing in the CNCF called the landscape, which is where they list like tons of cloud native everything, companies, tooling, pick a topic. And we want to do that for SBOM, but we need money because we're going to have to pay someone to do it, because just getting it stood up is difficult. Once it's stood up, it'll hopefully be easy to keep alive. And so we're going to ask the OpenSSF to pay for it. And I'm hopeful they will. And then the only other thing, I guess, is the brainstorming things we want to work on. And I think this is heavily related to the work Sarah is going to do. Because I mean, functionally, so you tell me, Sarah, how much detail are you going to include on like the projects we're actually going to do?
Well, I was going to start with trying to collect the projects that we know exist. So there's a lot of parallel efforts going on in one place. And I think 2 weeks ago, you said we don't want to do new work.
Yeah.
We just want to make sure that we communicate what work is going on and how you can participate. And then we may discover that there's gaps, that there's opportunities that we do want to do some work in, like talking to downstream consumers of SBOMs or something like that. But I was going to start with what we know about and then go from there.
Okay, all right, that's fair. So let's just put that on hold for the moment. So I won't. Let's not brainstorm anything yet. I am probably going to put some effort into the idea I have of turning artifacts into content, because I view that as separate from the goodness discussions going on in SPDX right now. Because from my perspective, I want an artifact and I want to get exactly these findings out of it. How you format it, not my problem. I'm just interested in kind of scanning content, but that's a whole nother conversation. But okay. Can anyone think of anything else we should have talked about or should move to next agenda? Awesome. I want to thank everyone for coming. This has been a lovely chat, and I will see you all in 2 weeks. And Sarah, reach out on Slack. Well, Sarah and Dan, I should say. Reach out on Slack if there's anything, any questions, any help, whatever, let us know. All right.
Awesome.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.